Vision at that point. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Rams and Seahawks win again. The Bills drop one to the Dolphins, and Indiana somehow stays unbeaten. But we begin today with some big wins yesterday in the NFL. The Chargers beat the Steelers in the Sunday night game 25-10, limiting Aaron Rodgers to just 51.6% completions. The Patriots beat Tampa Bay in Tampa in a game in which the Patriots had a bunch of explosive offensive plays. What was the most impressive win?
I'm drawn to Taylor, and the Colts could have lost that game. Perhaps even should have lost that game.
No,
can't figure out Atlanta. Can't figure out Atlanta. 1 week Atlanta gives you some win. You go, oh, let me get on to Atlanta and Bijan Robinson.
No.
And then they just go away.
No. Yeah.
But Taylor, see, I don't want to hear he's in the running for MVP.
Oh,
he's the damn MVP.
Right now,
and these
MVP.
people who just want to give it to a quarterback, this is not the Heisman.
No.
Okay? So Taylor, to have 17 touchdowns already
15 rushes
this season.
15 rushes in 10 games. Yeah.
So what does he have to do? And when he went down the sideline on that run, you're like, okay, this is now like real football, which I appreciate from where I'm from, that a great running back can carry a team. And it doesn't mean his quarterback isn't worthy of praise, because he is. It doesn't mean the defense doesn't have to chip in. They have to play complimentary football, because they do. He's the MVP.
Yeah.
He delivered them in an important game so they don't go down 2-0.
You're not talking about the Bears yet. You're going to wait for me to talk, and then you're going to talk about the Bears?
Tony, they should have won. They almost lost. They angered me again.
Yeah. No, I understand, because we had that conversation.
Yes, again.
Yes.
It made me crazy.
Yeah.
The cardiac Bears are taking years off my life.
And you thought that if Jackson Dart had played the whole game, that they would have
Giants
would have won.
Giants
All right, so I'm going to pick the Patriots here, and I'm glad that we're not going to conflict.
Totally reasonable.
I'm going to pick the Patriots, who are now 8-2. Last year at this time, they were 3-7. Okay? The Patriots have now won their two toughest games to this point, at Buffalo and at Tampa. They won a close game in Tampa against a team that always wins those kinds of close games, right? They are going to win the AFC East. They're actually going to win that. And in the last 2 years, they've won only 8 games in both years combined, 8-26. This is two people. This is Mike Vrabel and Drake May. And I can't even imagine that Mike Vrabel is not going to be Coach of the Year. No, I can't imagine. Nobody saw this coming. You might have said there'll be an improvement, but not this kind of explosion.
Yeah.
I agree with you on Indianapolis. Nobody saw that coming either. No. I agree with you that he's the MVP, though I seem to recall a couple of days last week you were saying you thought Sam Darnold was the MVP.
Sam Darnold, look,
right?
If I start listing people behind him, I'm going quarterbacks. One in Los Angeles, one in Seattle.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to get quarterbacks back in it, but it's Taylor.
I'll say one other thing, because we didn't get to the Chargers. That's a fine win. But I've said on this show, and you have agreed, that Pittsburgh does not pass the eye test consistently. And the Chargers, they don't win in a scintillating way, but I did not know this until this morning. In the last 3 games, they've only allowed a total of 26
defense has
points.
been better.
Very good.
Let me just ask you this question real quick.
Enough there.
Good. Let's stay that way for 2 more weeks.
Oh, you
got
got
to
it?
visit to Soldier Field.
Okay.
I'd like to see them look feeble just a little while longer. Let's move to the top of the NFC West, where the Rams and Seahawks are now tied at 7-2 against the Cardinals before winning 44-22. So which team do you think, Tony, more highly of right now? They meet Sunday, Rams or Hawks?
So I feel like I said this the other day on Friday, because I did. I said exactly this. I think Seattle is a very good team. I don't put a whole lot of stock in them destroying Arizona on Sunday, because Arizona stinks, as anyone can see if you watch that game. The Rams beat a tougher opponent. The Rams beat San Francisco, and they beat them on the road, and they put 42 on them, and San Francisco had not allowed more than 30 all year. Matthew Stafford threw 4 touchdown passes again, and here are the stats, and they are amazing. Matthew Stafford, in his last 6 games, has 20 touchdown passes and, count them, no interceptions.
Flawless.
For the year, he has 25-2. In his last 3 games, 13-0. He is on pace for 47 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions.
Wonderland.
These are video game numbers.
Did that once
and I
too.
think I know how good Sam Darnold has become, and he ain't this good.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to be this good by himself. I like what I'm taking Seattle.
I know you are.
And so going into Sunday's game, which is a marquee game, that is the marquee game of the weekend. And I'm looking at Seattle because, one, they've got just places where that offense can explode. It doesn't have to be all on Sam Darnold. The defenses are comparable. They're both really good. The Rams are in like second in points allowed, 11th in yards, so you can move it, but you're not scoring against them. But Seattle's defense is not the Legion of Boom, but it's really good as well. I'm going to take Seattle. And Tony, Sam Darnold has something that Matthew Stafford doesn't have. He still has something to prove.
Okay.
Because Minnesota let him go.
Matthew Stafford's going to the Hall of Fame.
He is.
He's going to the Hall of Fame.
And he's the runner-up right now for MVP for me this year. But Sam Darnold, it's still got to be when you are a professional athlete of that stature, and a second team after you were great for 16 of 18 games says, we're going to wave bye-bye to you for an unproven rookie. No, you still have something to prove, and I like what he's got in front of him.
Do you want to hear a set of numbers that is very impressive about Seattle? Seattle, in the last 45 years, since 1980, Seattle is only the second team to score at least 30 points in the first half in 3 games.
Yeah.
They were up 35-0 yesterday. And if that was Little League, it would have been the mercy rule. They would have called that game. But you ask me, who am I most impressed with? It's Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford by a small margin. Let's conclude our NFL segment with a straight-up question. Yesterday, as we both predicted, Baltimore went into Minnesota and they won 27-19 in a game marred by 8 false start penalties by the home team. And in a game that neither of us would have predicted, Buffalo got soundly beaten in Miami 30-13 by the previously woebegone Dolphins. Wilbon, which was the bigger deal?
Baltimore, going on the road and winning because they had to. Baltimore still had to win. Lamar Jackson, he wasn't exaggerating a couple of weeks ago when he said, we have to treat this every week now like it's the playoffs. We have to win every week. He's right. Now, at some point, he won't have to.
Yeah, we're getting close to that point as Pittsburgh loses.
But it wasn't yesterday.
No.
Yesterday, they had to go to Minnesota and beat the Vikings. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say the Vikings are a top 3 or 4.
They're coming off a good win, though.
Coming off a good win at Detroit.
Yeah, good win.
So that was a game that Baltimore had to win. They did. And by the way, it's interesting that the Vikings are blaming Baltimore for sort of what seems to me to be a penalty situation, calling out signals opposite their own signal caller, which there's a rule against that, but nonetheless, I think that was the more important. But Buffalo, I've never been convinced, as some people are, that Buffalo, the Super Bowl runs through Buffalo. No, it doesn't actually.
It hasn't.
And it hasn't.
All right, so my immediate inclination is to say Buffalo, because they lost badly to a terrible team, a team that fired its general manager last week after losing and could have fired its coach as well. Okay, Buffalo was down 16-0 in the first half. It's the first time since 2007 that they haven't scored in the first half. It is a devastating loss to me. But last week, I thought Green Bay suffered a similar devastating loss. They lost to Carolina, a bad team. At home, right? So maybe I have to revise my thinking. Maybe I have to say that a pretty good team or a very good team is entitled to one really terrible loss, and it's just a bump in the road. It's not a complete crater. And I agree with you that it's Baltimore. And the reason to me it's Baltimore, they go on the road and they win the game. It is their 3rd win in a row, and it feels almost prophetic. It feels like they are uniting around their best player, Lamar Jackson, who said, we got to win them all. Everything is a playoff game. Everything is a must game. And then they go and they deliver that game. Do you know who their next 3 are? Yeah, here's their next 3. Cleveland, the Jets, and Cincinnati. You're going to be surprised if they win all of them?
They should run the table, as they want to say in college football.
For those 3.
For the next 3.
Do you agree?
And these 3 already would give them 6 in a row, and they'd be back as Pittsburgh's, I hope.
They're fading.
Yeah, I hope continue.
Let's take a break. What was the most compelling result of the college football weekend?
That's easy. There were a lot of games on. There were some fun games. You know, LSU and Alabama. You had the kid at Texas Tech, Jacob Rodriguez, who's just a beast on defense. I want to see what it'll be like at the next level. No. Indiana, Penn State. That was the most compelling game. The catch by Omar Cooper. Tony, that's the greatest catch I've ever seen in college football because of what was at stake in part. First of all, just the catch. The balletic nature of the catch and getting the foot down and holding one up and getting one down inside the line to make it qualify as a game-winning catch. But also, you've got the ranking at stake, an undefeated season at stake, a seeding at stake, Indiana's national thing at stake. And he makes this catch. Greatest college catch I've ever seen.
I don't want to track over everything you said, and I know they pay us occasionally to disagree.
Yes.
But I'll tell the story because it's inside baseball. I'm playing golf. I get home. The phone rings. It's you. And you say, are you watching? And I go, am I watching what? You said, are you watching Penn State, Indiana? Because there's 4 minutes to go, and Penn State is winning. So I turn it on. And then we're watching it together in a sense, although we're in separate places. And your TV is getting the feed 10 seconds ahead of mine, and you keep telling me what happened. And I finally say, shut up and let me watch it in real time. And at that point, Mendoza's going down the field, essentially filming his own Heisman tape. And he finds this kid in the end zone. The kid makes the greatest catch, I agree, in college. So I would love to say Texas Tech. I'd love to say Alabama. I might even say North Carolina. No, it's Indiana.
And it's that
Indiana.
That catch is forever.
It's Indiana.
Come on.
It's Indiana.
For a basketball school, huh? Indiana to have that catch? Again, Major League Baseball. What do the indictments of Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz say to you?
Okay, so you're always innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
But I read stories about this. I read these charges, and it seems like the Chargers are rock solid and totally wired, right? I don't know that I believe that for this action, somebody should go to jail, but there's a possibility of a 20-year prison sentence in this, right?
Yes.
I mean, and you think to yourself, what's going on here? I read the accounts of the lawyers for the defendants saying they are totally innocent. But I got to say, Mike, as I sit here now, I don't think either of them is ever going to pitch in the major leagues again. Wow. And I think that Rob Manfred has to come out and he has to say, this is what we are doing to prevent this from happening in the future. Because, Mike, these prop bets, they are the poison apple. They are.
They are, Tony, and there's now this effort to limit a small element of the prop bets. But going back to what does it say to you? I'm not going to disagree with anything you said. And if guilty and there's punishment, so be it. I mean, you know the rules. It's explained over and over to you.
You're defrauding the game.
Yes. And you know what, Tom? I don't care.
Really?
Because at the highest levels of pyramids in this country, in this culture, everybody's betting now. It's on every phone except yours and mine.
Don't you want it to be honest? Don't you want it to be honest?
Does that affect the game? Does it tilt it in any way that matters to me?
I know what you're going to say, that it's very small and it's not throwing the game.
Right.
But the more these things happen, it's
I can't
water
even
that's
disagree
leaking on
with that.
something.
There's a slippery slope. There's a slippery slope. But you know what?
Enough email. Rams. Bruce led the NFL in receiving yards in 1996. For his career, Bruce had 1,024 receptions and 91 receiving touchdowns, both of which are 15th all-time. Bruce had 15,208 receiving yards, which is 5th all-time. Bruce was on the greatest show on turf, Rams, in St. Louis, and was on the 1999 Super Bowl Rams, who won when the Tennessee Titans were stopped at the 1-yard line as time expired. Kurt Warner was the Rams quarterback then. The Rams' trend of great passers and great receivers continues now in L.A., where Matthew Stafford has thrown to Cooper Kupp and now Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams.
Doesn't it seem like that team was not celebrated enough, is not celebrated enough? Kurt Warner had great years. He is in the Hall of Fame. They both are. By the way, I love listening to Kurt Warner, calling games, in studio or calling games, but particularly on games.
Happy anniversary, Johnny Manziel. On this day 13 years ago, Johnny Football immediately became the Heisman Trophy frontrunner after personally accounting for 345 of number 15 Texas A&M's 418 yards of offense in a stunning upset at number 1 Alabama. Manziel is lightning in a bottle in this highlight reel, avoiding, evading, and destroying Alabama. The Cleveland Browns drafted Manziel at number 22 in the 2014 draft, watched him fail, then selected essentially the same type of quarterback, Baker Mayfield, another Heisman winner who also failed there. The Manziel story turned dark over time with reports of drug and alcohol addiction and bipolar disorder. But in college, Johnny Manziel was magic.
There's actually a doc on the story of Manziel, Untold Johnny Football.